everybody. It's good to be here. We're calling out of the United States, so it's morning for all of us. We've got me out of Olympia, Washington, Lisa out of Phoenix, Arizona, Stephen out of Tennessee, and Ross Brunson from the Linux Professional Institute out of Montana. So as far as the U.S. is concerned, I think we've got the compass fairly well boxed. Yes, it is. I think we're doing pretty well. So, well, folks, what we're going to be doing today is talking about how blogging or social media is dead or not. We're going to take a bird's eye view on tweeting and microblogging, and we've brought in Stephen, who has extensive experience in social media, and also Ross Brunson, who has extensive experience in social media working for the Linux Professional Institute. We're going to talk about social media, SEO, and the facts of life, about how does anybody talk about SEO anymore, and maybe they should. Getting past the hip factor and replacing luck with skill when it comes to social media and SEO and how to penetrate the market. So we have a lot of experience on the phone call today. Now, for those of you who don't know who CIW is, we're your web and internet certification. We're a skills-based education standard. We take a holistic approach to certification, which is a fancy way of saying we provide certification exams and courseware. And we have courses and certification exams in various elements that teach internet skills, video, SEO, web design, web development. We're vendor neutral and we're globally accepted. Our whole point is basically to put you on a lifelong learning path, not just a product, a vendor product treadmill, so we can follow you throughout your entire career. Well, our presenters today, again, I'm James Stanger, and Stephen is our certification specialist. He's an author and educator, and he designs certifications and courseware for us and implements programs worldwide. And I understand, Stephen, you got a little bit of teaching going on this summer. Is that right?
Just a little bit, James. Yeah, this is the summer of the road warrior, so to speak. But yeah, we've got a lot of classes coming up this summer. Mm-hmm.
So we both of us, Stephen and I, have a lot of experience implementing social media as well. Stephen's over our works with our Twitter and Facebook presence over the years. I've done work with CompTIA, for example, helping them with their social media, and also CIW. Ross Brunson is our star today. Ross, how you doing? I know you don't like this picture very much that you're looking at, but I am very, very pleased to have you here today. So, Ross, tell us just a little bit about yourself. You're our director. You're LPI's Director of Member Services. You're a technologist and author and a road warrior like Stephen as well. You've done a lot of instruction, and you've also done a lot of authoring. But tell us more about what you do with the Linux Professional Institute in regards to social media.
Well, thanks for that lovely introduction there, James. I'm scuffing my foot in embarrassment. That picture, boy, that picture. I tell people that I've got a face built for radio, which is why we're on an audio webinar right now. No, I do a lot of work with social media and marketing and membership management. And membership management is a piece that years ago might have included a lot of administrative work, and not a great deal of interaction with the customers necessarily. These days, the role of the Chief Customer Officer, membership management as a whole, not just as a, get them in and get the money and and provide the service, but really discussing, interacting, collaborating with our customers. We have a huge set of constituencies, almost 250,000 people, and that's a lot of folks for a very small staff to manage. But we do manage to, to have some great conversations and get some good things out.
Tell us more about the Linux Professional Institute, because you do have a worldwide organization, like you said, a very large and distributed constituents worldwide. And so answer that question, and here's another one, Ross. In what way does social media help you connect with those folks?
Well, our just running the numbers as we do every once in a while. We've got about 250,000 constituents. We've given about 350,000 exams since 1999. And LPI started out as a testing organization, a community-directed kind of a grassroots movement that very quickly became, the vendor-neutral and distribution-neutral Linux system administrator certification organization. We're in about 27 countries and growing, and we've got about 7 languages that our exams are delivered in. So with a very wide and somewhat varied crew out there, we really have to leverage social media. And when I say social media, I don't just mean, you know, like the usual Twitter, Facebook, and Google Plus kind of thing, but we have to use online means to communicate with our constituencies, with our partners, you know, with everybody out in the field, because we just can't possibly be there 24 hours a day with all those time zones. It's been really, really helpful for us to start these conversations. We get so much from our community, good feedback, you know, some excellent volunteer work. We just couldn't do it without our community, and that community is powered by the ability to communicate via the social channel.
You know, it's been impressive to see what you do with LPI in regards to social media, and it's been impressive to see how LPI has grown so well with master affiliates all around the world. You know, you use Facebook to profile, I've noticed on your Facebook presence, and we saw the URLs earlier, to profile newly certified individuals. You also use Facebook to show program-based information. So this, you're looking at some screenshots that for example, show the LPIC Level 1. And then you use Twitter to engage in dialogue and to also give suggestions to people who are LPI certified, and to help follow Linux experts, to go and get new ideas. Tell me a bit more about how you use Facebook and about how you use Twitter to help build communities, because LPI is very community-oriented. It's impressive that way. And how do these two tools help you?
Well, James, you know, it's those 2 tools, but you know, in the next 6 to 9 to 24 months, it could be 2 other tools. You know, that's one of the key things about the environment, is that we really keep an eye on what's up and coming. We thought for a while that Pinterest was going to be something that would be really big for us, but you know, it hums right along like everything else. LPI right now focuses for the most part on Facebook, Twitter. We could talk about LinkedIn and Google Plus and things like that, but these 2 are really important to us because they provide us a way to let our folks in the field know, our certification holders and those who are our candidates, our members really, what's going on. We use it as a kind of a not really formal presence. We do a lot of fun stuff. We'll post funny graphics. We'll let people know if there's something that's going on. As a matter of fact, we just released a video yesterday. Was it only yesterday? It seems like longer, featuring some of our Linux professionals from around the world. And so, you know, it would be really hard for us to get that out to everybody on a CD or a DVD or, or something like that. So it lets us take the community and present the community back to itself in a way that's fun, hopefully, and engaging.
You know, folks, I'm not going to show the video that Ross has. I saw it yesterday, and it's nice because what it does is it shows people around the world holding up their LPI certificates, basically, and saying, I'm LPI certified, and what it does. It's a powerful message because it shows a global program. Stephen, you know, what's interesting what Ross is saying here, because Ross, one of the things you're saying is that you can show this video or try to do it on a webcast or try to do it on various phone calls or whatever, but I think it's that asynchronous element that is very attractive to people. Guys, do you know what I'm trying to say? In what way does social media make it possible for us to communicate much more richly through an asynchronous medium rather than through a synchronous medium? You guys, either of you care to answer that question?
I'll just jump in with it and then turn it over to Ross. We're playing around with it actually with our training this summer, James. We've launched a series of classes which we're running in a social media environment built around the academic program called Edmodo. But I'm running some classes asynchronously through this social network. So everyone is coming in and they're able to communicate within a community with like professionals, teachers, right? And so we're able to have discussions but then work through the courseware and recorded video review sessions asynchronously. So, instead of everyone trying to meet as a group and going through webinars at a specific static time that's agreeable with everyone's schedule, right, from wherever they're located, they're able to come in, pick up on the recorded notes at their own speed, but then still communicate with the other members of the class. And I'm really excited about the possibility of it.
Yeah, I really want to.
Ross, you've told me about how much you love Edmodo. Go ahead, Ross. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I want to mirror what Stephen is saying and bolster that, because we're the asynchronous, which for those who are not really familiar with it, once you have other responsibilities in your life than just the school and things like that, it really becomes difficult to fit in long periods of content or drive somewhere in order to attend a class, etc. So we're finding that our online courses that we give, as part of our free education, our partners who do an online presence mixed sometimes with some live across the wire mentoring. These are very popular courses, especially with anybody who has family and additional requirements that really make life a little more complex. That ability to have things happen while you're not paying attention to it, be able to weigh in, and then have the other person be able to respond, it actually seems to be a better cadence for life and for learning. A lot of people seem to get so much more out of that particular way of doing it than they would if they were sitting in a class kind of looking owl-eyed at Stephen or I, frankly.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, Ross, what is the URL for your Twitter presence, just so I can give it to everybody? There was somebody asking that.
Twitter.com/LPI Connect. We're branded as LPI Connect pretty much everywhere that it allows us to.
So Facebook, LPI Connect kind of thing, right?
Facebook.com/LPI Connect. And the Twitter URL is the Google Plus URL is amazingly long and convoluted, so you just go search for us.
Okay, we'll do that. Thanks. Kate has asked a question, so we wanted to make sure it was there. Folks, the reason why we've invited Stephen and, of course, Ross on here is because we work a lot on social media, and these are experts here, so that's why we're doing it. So as consultants for various people, Ross has worked on social media. At CIW, we use it to create new business, to support existing business, and we use it all the time to create and continue dialogue. For example, Stephen, you've done a lot of work via Facebook working with instructors, have you not, to help get the information about various CIW features. Tell us just a second, Stephen, a bit about some of the things that you do in regards to the CIW website, the CIW presence, for example, with Facebook or even with Twitter.
Well, of course, CIW has its own Facebook page in which we go out and promote the CIW program, how people are actually using the program, different resource links, and then we get conversation going with people who are certifying or who have certified, and it's quite an international discussion or a community that's been built around it. And then off of the side of that, I'm running a site that's geared more towards the academic instructor, and it's CIW Instructor on Facebook, and you can search that just within Facebook for CIW Instructor, and you'll come up with it. And that's geared more towards the teachers that are implementing the program in the classroom, and what that community is built for is extra resources or interesting topics. A lot of content that's offered within CIW is talking about real-time information and technologies and why it's important. And so, a lot of that can provide backup for classroom information. So I'll post those links for people to jump onto and take a look at. I also try and keep everybody up to date, if for the CIW Roadshow, as we call it, right? As far as where we are and what's going on. So it's just a way of reaching out to our instructors and supporting them.
We also use, and Ross, I'm sure you do the same thing at LPI, we get a lot of information from the dialogue that we have, not only in how to teach the Linux Professional Institute material or the CIW material, but also to improve our certifications. We get input about areas to focus on in regards to exams, to courseware, and even help people with their teaching style. So, of course, I think everybody knows on some level that this social media helps engage with the audience better. Well, let's talk about some of the more provocative things that we put up on our website concerning blogging and SEO. Is blogging dead, folks? Is it blogging dead? No, I don't think so. It might smell bad at times, but I don't think it's dead. I don't think the bloggers have gone anywhere. I just think the good bloggers have gotten better, and the bad ones have just gone away. Ross, what do you think in terms of blogging? I don't think any of this is dead, folks, obviously. What I do think, though, is that it has matured and gotten past being hip or cool and is now a business tool. What do you say about that, Ross?
Oh, I agree, James. There's fads and then there's trends. And a fad is something that pops up and maybe goes away after a while. A trend is something that people initially, oh, it's a new stereo. I love this. This is great, and you play it night and day and drive everybody crazy with it. But after a while, you find that you use it for a purpose. And we find that blogging is a great way. I don't even actually call it blogging. I actually kind of really go after our writers when they say, I'm going to write another blog. I'm like, really? You're going to create WordPress? What you're really doing is
I feel the same way. Yeah.
you're creating content, and content is really important. Getting writers on a cadence of producing good content on a consistent basis and putting that up on your site is just an awesome way to A, attract people, and B, inform them, but C, also you have to let Google know that you have new content so that they can rank you higher. And the more people that interact via social media with that content, the higher your page rank, the more people you reach. So it's this great cycle that we've gone past blogging and now we're just writing good content.
I think that's a really valuable perspective, because it is about content, and because as you build relationships, as you tell a story, discuss a moment, whether it be somebody either travels for LPI or for CIW folks, I think it's a way of including people, and see, that sort of thing naturally will improve your SEO rankings as long as what you're doing is relevant, right? I think that's the key here. Folks, of course, blogging's not dead. Look what Yahoo just did in regards to microblogging, and anyway, with the Tumblr purchase yesterday or the day before. I think they spent about $1 billion on Tumblr. Is that right? So pretty interesting development. Although Tumblr is not particularly profitable, it certainly experiences a lot of volume. And the question becomes, how can you leverage what you do the best? So bad blogging is certainly less popular. I think one of the ways in which you do that, Ross and Stephen, when you're working with your audience, and again, whether it be for Facebook, it doesn't matter, or if you're writing a blog entry, or if you're doing a micro kind of entry on something like Twitter, what kind of things do you do to learn more about your audience? In other words, how do you make sure what you're doing is relevant? Because I think people who are attending this webcast are going to be interested, Ross, in saying, yeah, okay, content is important, but how do I make important content for my audience?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the key thing is listening to your audience. Oftentimes we find that people will write to what they think is the most popular. And what I like to do is I like to look and see what's going on. The Huffington Post way of doing it. Who rolled out of a club at 4 a.m. this morning? Let's write about that kind of thing. But right. I think it's really important for somebody who's producing content about a complex area, of study, such as our certification exams. They're not simple. 1, 2, 3. This is it. It takes a while to approach these and to really get good at them. Is to take the time, especially in the beginning, to write an article series that walks people through your experience or the common experience of getting your certification or figuring out your program or whatever it is that somebody's doing take the time to really lay it out step by step by step in a series of articles. It's just amazingly helpful. And besides that, when somebody asks you a question, that's already been answered in an article, you can answer the question for them, but you can also refer them to the article series in the hopes that they're going to get more, they're going to read the rest of the articles and get a lot more out of that. So I think that kind of thing, caring enough about your audience to really craft the message in such a way that you're answering as much as you possibly can, so then the conversations are at a higher level when they happen. I think that's a really good way to earn your audience's respect.
I think what you're talking about is the idea of conversational writing. Stephen, go ahead.
It's not even just what everyone is saying about a particular topic, but it's what they're viewing, and you can go in and even look at from the back end. What are people looking at? What are they sharing? What content are they sharing? What are they liking or disliking? And from like CIW instructor on the Facebook site, I can tell there are more follow-ups, more views for design issues for our site development associate certification than anything else. So that's an area that instructors are really interested in. So we can provide content to support that.
What I'm noticing on your responses, Ross and Stephen, is you're basically saying it doesn't matter what you think is popular. If you pay special attention to what your audience wants, then you'll have your own compass. You'll have your own way of moving forward with authoritative content that people will want to follow.
That's it exactly.
Yep.
Now,
exactly.
Let me. What I think one of the ways that you can get started, I think, is to conduct some sort of survey. Know your audience, and by survey you can go as formal as WebMonkey if you want, but surveys can also be informal as you get to know certain members of your audience. You could do it via email. You could do it in person. And another thing, when it comes to blogging, it can be incredibly influential. Basically, more than all of the millions spent or billions spent on advertisements, traditional advertisements, blogs seem to outrank even social networks for consumer influence. So I think Stephen and Ross are in a unique place to influence their particular constituencies because of the social media platforms that they've chosen. So do you guys have any particular blogging tips? I've put some up here as a placeholder, picking a theme, making data-driven decisions about what you thought, focusing on attractive design, and creating pithy copy. You guys have anything to add to these particular tips in regards to blogging?
Go ahead, Stephen.
I would just comment. I like what you have in here, and as I was looking at your slide deck yesterday, I was having to think, out of all of the blogs that I follow that I like to pick up on, they pretty much follow that exact format. They have something interesting to say. It's not just facts, but kind of like what Ross was saying. They're very informational, and I go to them for either some sort of support or information about a particular product or service, for the inside scoop, so to speak. But yes, if I can be entertained by their wit or their sarcasm, if the need fits, then it works, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I follow a particular rule, and that is that I envision our blogging platform, our site, the LPI website, as like the center of follow the analogy here, the center of a flower. And each one of the areas that we produce content, YouTube, Facebook, Google+, Twitter, articles, etc., is all designed to go out, catch someone's attention, in a good way, in a very helpful way, and bring them back to our main site. Because I think a lot of people miss the concept that they talk about landing pages. I have to design a great landing page. Well, every one of your articles, every page on your site is a landing page, because you don't know where that person's going to interact or find you, or what search term is going to show up. And so I think it's really important that if you're in a series, or you're doing something, is to always reference previous articles. It also helps you with your page rank to reference previous articles, but it also shows that you've thought the process out. I think also one of the things that for me helps a lot is I have a particular formula that I tend to try to adhere to, which is, of course, I'm a foodie, so it's all food analogies. But the foodie analogy is essentially that you want to have at least one full course meal, long article that covers, whatever you're trying to do about every week or 2 weeks or so. Really, like a comprehensive article about something. Then at least once a week or more often have kind of small meals. Like a short article about something or something interesting, kind of the 300 words sort of thing. And then as many little snacks as you can throw in there. They need to be on topic and they need to be, interesting and fun and stuff like that. But I actively go out and search for the smaller articles to post, especially on social media. We reserve our PR and our blogging channel for certain topics, but we are much wider in that set of topics and what we allow and what we do on the social media side. It just creates a much more fun environment, I think. So you can craft it as a inner circle of topics that appears on your blog site. You can enhance that with special things that only show up on certain platforms, Facebook or Twitter or whatever. And as always, think about using graphics in such a way. The funny little meme graphics, where the old Victorian photos about, and then there's some sort of a pithy quote on there or something like that. That's just that's a great snack item that you can throw up about system administration or developing code or something like that. And I find that people really like those, and they'll forward and share those a great deal more than they will your really long, well thought out articles. I don't know what that says about us or our audiences, but it is true.
Well, I think what your meaty article, to extend your metaphor, a meaty article does, a really large article, is it sets that tone, it sets that theme, and then if you have multiple entries behind it, it gives people a chance to start thinking about this topic in meaningful ways. I think that's the great thing about this conversation that happens with blogs, is that you listen to feedback and you create a series of entries, and it allows the community to follow along. I think in this instant gratification kind of culture that we're all in, we expect people to focus on things right away. But I think your strategy makes it possible for people to follow in your wake a little easier and to understand what you're doing. So I think that's a great strategy. Stephen, what do you think?
I have to agree with that, and especially the small snacks. I love the idea of the small snacks around the article, and I agree with Ross. You typically tend to see those shared around with the community more than the longer, lengthier articles.
I think it's attention span.
Thanks, Stephen. Appreciate it. When it comes to
just thinking of our own attention span. That's all right. Just thinking of our own attention span. When we're doing this, and we aren't always a perfect reflection of our audience, but we're a pretty good reflection. So thinking about what we want the most and what we end up consuming the most is really that helps me a lot. So.
It's time to analyze your audience. What do you guys do? What is generally done out there? What I've noticed is that we conduct surveys, for example. We also, when we're out on the road, we have that. So we have a lot of different ways of contacting people and getting to know people so that we discuss relevant content. Can you think of other ways besides SurveyMonkey or Contactology or others to focus on relationships and people and what they're thinking?
Well, I think one of the things that's helpful for us is to to send out an article to our master affiliate channel first. We like to poll our master affiliates in the different countries, and I'm not sure exactly how it is for you, Stephen, but we have such a wide set of English, non-English, other languages, etc., that we tend to find that any Americanisms or vernacular doesn't fly very well. So we actually have to craft our articles a little better than that, and it takes a lot of time to do that sometimes. But we actually do get really good feedback about how it fits into a particular region by pre-screening it with folks. So that's outside of the ones that you've got here, James, which is excellent. That's something that we tend to do quite a bit.
And And I agree with that. And we have the same issue with Americanisms, with an international audience, and that can be definitely be understood. And I agree, James. Your list is very good, and of course we use the same type tools, the survey monkeys, and all of that to get feedback. We also, as James was saying, when we're at shows, we have direct interaction with customers, and as I'm working with instructors in classes and training courses, we get that type of feedback. But then also, you can look at your social media, what's trending within your topics. And I should have mentioned earlier, James, we do have a LinkedIn community in which we're getting conversation going, and people from our community to put in questions or points for communication. So again, we look at that interest, that feedback that's coming back, and to use that as a guide for where to go, and we can use that as part of our analytics.
Yeah, it does a great job, doesn't it? The LinkedIn presence does a very nice job for us in providing really good feedback for our program. And so it's funny to see, not funny, but interesting to see with Facebook, we have, is it instructors like that one, right, Stephen? And when it comes to LinkedIn, we get a little bit more of a business-oriented approach to it. But we also have instructors on LinkedIn too, don't we?
We have a few, but by and far we have more instructors on Facebook, yes.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to, I've got the term fadista, in other words, somebody who's just interested in doing this as a fad rather than doing things on a substantive level like you two do. I think one of the things that's important is be patient, focus on your audience, and build it, and it's going to work slowly. The two things that I find that work is you network between platforms. LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter seem to have been coming up in this webcast, but you also develop backlinks and work on linking campaigns between various entities. For example, with CIW and LPI, we are going to be we're working on a really interesting relationship where we're offering CIW Internet Business Associate and our Site Design Associate and our Network Technology Associate, combining it with LPI's new Linux Essentials program. And I find that it's networking that is a very rich way, a very rich example of how you can cross-promote things, not only between platforms, blogging platforms or social media platforms, but also you can link partners. So I think that's one thing we can do. When it comes to making content sizzle, Ross mentioned earlier the creation of images or even video. I think that this is a very important thing. I've noticed really good social media entries, even Twitter, they will now focus on a lot of images or at least links to images. When it comes to creating them, Ross, do you create them yourself or do you have somebody grab them, or do you basically, with a reference, pilfer them from places and then say, hey, I got this from, from Dilbert or whatever? How do you go about doing that?
It's a good question, James. It takes different. If somebody forwards something to me, and I like it, and I think we want to post it. For example, one of those 6-panel. I'm a Linux developer, and it's this is what I think I do. This is what my boss thinks I do. Those are a lot of fun. If somebody forwards me something like that, I'll try to go and look up the lineage of it, and figure out where it came from, if at all possible, and then shoot a quick note to that person and say, hey, do you mind? We'd love to post this. Now, a lot of people go, oh man, that's a lot of work, man, do you really have to do that? I've made some excellent contacts and gotten a couple of good friends who have never met in the real world by doing that and letting people know that we're a couple of cartoonists in particular we've contacted, and they're just like, absolutely, we love it, thank you very much, So I like to do that. The other thing is I do not create graphics very often, and I think everybody's probably happier because of that. We have a designer that we work with. Yeah, it's one of those things. I'm really good at some things, and graphics design is not one of them. I can recognize good graphics, but not create them. So we have a designer that we work with, Sherry, and she's really, really good at taking a concept that we're talking about or that I've kind of sketched out a little bit, and turning that into something. So I think finding a good graphics designer is like finding a good mechanic. You really need to have a good relationship. They need to be somebody who can actually enhance what you're thinking of and what you're trying to express. But most of the time, stock photo is good. We use Shutterstock and we use some of the others. And I subscribe on Facebook and other places to a number of the joke feeds because there's some pretty good stuff that comes through there.
Ross, it's interesting that you mentioned 3 separate ideas. First of all, that some people just might go, well, I don't have the time to go and get permission about this particular image or whatever, but you took the time. And then not only did you get permission, but you also earned friends and you built your network. I think, see, this is the sign of somebody who has a mature look into social media. I think the second thing you mentioned was that, hey, if you're not a good designer yourself, go grab a good one. And I love that mechanic analogy. I've been searching for a good mechanic. I think I may have found one, hard to say. But the third thing that you said I thought was interesting is you mentioned stock photo. And there's iStock photo that most people know about. You can also get stock video from there. For those who don't know what stock photos is, for those who haven't taken Site Development Associate, it's basically photography or video available for either free licensing or cheap licensing. So you can grab that. We don't want to break the rules of intellectual property, do we, folks? And interesting, Ross, that rather than saying, I want to follow the rules, you see it as an opportunity to get your larger network. So good for you. Good for you. Well, folks, let's take a bird's eye view on tweeting and microblogging. And there's a lot to choose from. So like you mentioned earlier on the call that, right now we're using, say, Twitter and Facebook, and 6 months from now we'll be using something else. Is there anything, and I'll open this up to you, Stephen, as well, are there any platforms you're looking at that kind of look a little more interesting than Twitter these days? Anything out there that interests you, or is Twitter kind of where you want to be right now?
I think the key thing for me, and Stephen, you should weigh in on this one as well, is that I want to be where the clients are. I want to be where the customers are, and so I will definitely watch.
Yeah.
I subscribe to way too many feeds, and go through all those and see what's new and upcoming. And I've created accounts on far too many social networks that just fizzled and died, and I don't really care. You know what I mean? It's like wherever the customers are. And I tend to do that as opposed to trying to lead customers to a particular location. The only place I really want to lead them to is to our social media, wherever that happens to be. So there's a couple, Google Plus. Everybody's, keeps talking about, Google Plus for me is kind of like backup. It's like I really ought to do it, but I don't do it all the time. It's just not quite as compelling as far as the numbers. And, we have almost 8,000 people on Facebook, and we have 400 on Google Plus. And I spend equal time on there. I post all of our posts over there. I try to make sure that's kept up because I think it's an important platform. But it's just interesting to watch the social wars, as it were.
And I have to agree with Ross 100%. It's really about where's your target audience, and not driving traffic to where there isn't anybody. And so, that's and I found that out myself. My typical target audience is educators in academics, James, and so I probably put more effort into Facebook and getting information, relaying information out through Facebook than through LinkedIn or through Twitter. Twitter, to me, is more of professional development for myself. More than for our customers, because more of our customers are, not necessarily putting emphasis in Twitter. So I don't put out that many Twitter or tweets, about, what's coming up with us or whatnot, because primarily my target audience is going to be looking at our Facebook page or the CIW instructor page or somewhere like that. So it's definitely, understanding your target audience. And where they're coming from, what tools they're going to be using, so you can focus in on that.
Well, thanks, Stephen. Appreciate the insight on that. And again, I think there are a couple of different approaches you can take to when it comes to building that audience. You can take the announcement kind of approach. It keeps things brief and it creates focus. But I'm not sure it helps create dialogue. And I think if you isolate your audience and you cross-promote, also engage with your audience to create some sort of dialogue, you can, regardless of the platform that you use. You know, Stephen and Ross are saying you got to go where the platform is. I think once you've gotten to that platform that your audience uses, you can then promote your material and create a dialogue. And you mentioned, Ross, feeds, that you subscribe to way too many feeds. I think one of the things that you can do is reveal a lot of those feeds to your audience, and then they can start making comments and choices, much the same way that social bookmarking was big back in the day. Now you can basically say, here are the sources that I listen to, and people will respond to that. Because if you show them the means of your production and the way in which you write and the way in which you think, people love to see that. It's almost like a voyeurism. They love to look into how you think, and I think that way you can start and continue a very good dialogue. You can also use. Oh, go ahead, Ross. Go ahead.
No, just to buttress that point. There's an awesome photographer and a great guy, Trey Radliff. StuckInCustoms.com is the site, and Trey actually tells people what he does in order to get some of the amazing photographical stunts that he pulls. He's open to a fault, as he puts it, and it serves him extremely well. And he's a good example of somebody who's learning fast, innovating fast, and isn't afraid to tell other people what they're doing because it feeds something. It helps them. And I think it's a great suggestion you just made, James, and that is that be open with your audience. Let them know what you're trying to do. And who knows? Most of the time when we're open like that and we say, hey, this is what we're trying to do, like with our video, we had submissions flying in from all over. It's just an awesome thing to realize that everybody kind of wants you to succeed too, and they're happy to help if they can. So I really like that point that you just made.
It's true. I think being open is just really critical. And it's funny because in a world, especially with digital migrants, like I think the three of us are, we tend to be a little more reserved at times, and we tend to worry, well, are we giving too much information? And especially across the internet, whatever platform, because that information tends to stay persistent, doesn't it, folks? But I think for the people who are less inhibited, you can be very, very successful. Does either of you know about FriendFeed? This looks like an interesting kind of tool. It's owned by Facebook, but FriendFeed is kind of interesting because you can aggregate or you can combine various services from Twitter, Facebook, or wherever, and then you can focus, rather than on platform, you can focus on the content coming from those platforms. To me, that could be an interesting way to organize yourself, or to at least get a different perspective. Instead of focusing on, well, what's Twitter doing? It's more, what are my people doing on Twitter or Facebook or whatever? And you guys mess with this? Or to me, this is a very promising kind of approach to understanding the content as it comes across about LPI or about CIW.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest, I have not.
Yeah, we've looked at it a little bit, but what makes me nervous with these is that, and not just with this one, but what makes me nervous with some of these is that if it's bought by a large property such as Facebook, you have to keep your eye on the on the gauges to make sure that they're not all of a sudden going to fold it into something else. The other one that's really interesting that I want to throw into here that I've looked at a little bit is called Storify. STORIFY.com, and it's a way for you to create something that can be referred to. It's almost a microblogging platform that you can use to refer from Twitter. You can take tweets and pictures and TwitPics and Facebook posts and everything else and aggregate together a story. So you'll see the White House social media people using Storify. At times, you'll see some of the larger news agencies using Storify because it's almost a way to tell the entire, chain of events of something. It's hard to have a single tweet about revolution in Egypt. You know what I mean? You kind of need to have something a little longer. They don't want to do a blog article, so they use Storify.
Excellent. That's great advice. Very interesting. I think this idea of aggregating, even if you don't like friend feed and you go with Storify, I think that can be a very, very effective tool. Folks, let's talk about the future of social media. So Stephen and Ross, right now, for the next couple of years probably, we're going to be, it's about customers and products and pushing it. I grabbed something here, I have a reference to it, about the uses of social business. Right now, this is according to, I wanted to say it's based on a Deloitte survey, but I think it's somebody else. The uses of social business to promote events, generate sales leads, the things that you would expect. And I think that's fine. And it tends to be kind of event-driven right now. And folks, by event, I don't mean trade shows necessarily. But you work with marketing and sales in some sort of event, a new product like the LCI Linux Essentials combination or whatever. And it's also about mobilizing customers, getting the message out and all that. Isn't this the traditional way of doing things right now? Have I left anything out, Ross and Stephen?
No, I don't think you've left anything out. If you look at different statistics about how social media is being used by business, it's definitely on the upswing, and it's going to stay on the upswing for quite a while. It's a branding tool, and it's all across the board. There's not any one particular brand that is dominant over searches or anything else within social media, but it is definitely a way. It's always been a big topic in why businesses use social media. Well, it's because we want to see what our customers are saying about our products. Nothing can hurt a product more than a viral posting about a negative comment about a particular product, and then you're doing damage control. Mm-hmm. But it's also promoting products and services with, as you've got in here, coupons and different types of sales. So it's definitely going up.
Yeah, I think this is the standard arc that most technologies will take, and what we're seeing is the technology of social media is maturing, and I think what you see in 2014, or a little more in the future, I think you're going to see more of a focus on groups of people, enclaves and tribes of people, and where local interest is key. So I do think that you're going to see the traditional approach continue, and you'll see social media folded into businesses in the same way SEO was a few years ago. But I think in the future you're going to see a focus on direct marketing, direct sales, direct communication to various groups of people. That's what I mean by enclaves and tribes. And I think you're also going to see mobile becoming more and more critical. Now, this particular image, this Smart Aleck image showing the evolution of social media or whatever, kind of leading all the way to Google+. I'm not sure Google+ is the key. I think that's kind of a placeholder for what the future is going to look like. But I do think Google+ could be interesting because it might serve that kind of aggregator kind of service more than a platform in and of itself. I still think that it needs to mature in and of itself. I'm not sure Google even knows what Google+ is going to become particularly.
Well, the joke being is that when you look at all the different ones, Facebook is, the analogies of how people interact with the different ones. Google+ is jokingly Google employees plus some of the rest of us, and I do really, really like how they're responding to some of their constituencies. Google is absolutely listening. Vic Gandatra and the crew over at Google+, they're doing a lot of things that make it a great platform for photographers. So it's interesting to watch somebody respond to their customers that way. The 3-hour keynote that they had the other day at Google I/O, a lot of those things focused on Google+. So again, it's one of those platforms. You just got to keep watching it.
I think so. I think it's one of those kind of betas, works in progress. I think some of the things that you're going to see in the future also are things not just Google+ listening more and kind of congealing a few ideas. I think you're going to see more about social recruiting, getting jobs through social media. That's already happening, I realize, but I think you're going to see that mature. I think geolocation, which we've all known about, the idea that your phone can help you provide through responsive design and through communication between a web presence and somebody's mobile phone, can start providing more interesting choices. Also, with Google Glasses or whatever, I think you're going to see profile-based and geolocation-based kind of social media to become much hotter. I think member-based social media is going to be, even more so than Facebook, is going to become big. And of course, business intelligence will become very important. Using social media for employees, for internal employees, actually communicating with them, partners, and also customers. Any thoughts more about what you think might be happening with social media in the future? Additional revolutionary uses. I think that what we've noticed is Twitter news has been seen as somehow more unique, and even unique might even be the wrong word, more valid. It's more real. It's coming from the people who are on the ground in whatever location, whether it be something like Oklahoma or whatever. I also think that with social media can be an interesting supplement to news media, to viral video, and to provide viral video. But I also think that you're going to see social media, banks and healthcare are going to get involved eventually. These are very large verticals, and they will, in one way or the other, adopt it. And in so adopting this technology will change it fundamentally. Well, Ross and Stephen, it kind of raises a bit of a question, and we'll address this in the last few minutes. Where did SEO go anyway? Have you noticed that people don't talk about it in the same way that people now talk about social media? Have you noticed that? It's almost like it just kind of out with the old, in with the new. But I think it's just a fact of life. And instead of it being, something really cool and different, because it's a fact of life, we tend not to talk about it as much. But I still think it's vital. And you touched on this before, Ross, about the importance of, as you write valid, or what I would call authentic content, SEO can kind of take care of itself. But you still have to have SEO in mind, don't you, as you go about doing your blogging or your tweeting, as it were, right?
Well, because it's all, you're right, it's all related to what you're actually typing and what people are searching for. The importance of using the correct words but not overusing them is there. I remember Samuel Clemens, I get paid by the word. I never write the word metropolis when I can say city, kind of thing. But if people are searching for metropolis, you got to write it. So keeping some standard SEO things in mind is good. Three things that I always remind my writers about is always define the situation first. In other words, in your opening of whatever your article is, you can write your lead, but define the situation. If it's a complex environment, define it, and then go about explaining how you're writing about that situation. The second one is always link to previous articles, link to other people's articles if you possibly can that make your point, even link to the ones that don't agree with you, because those linkages are noticed by Google and it's helpful. And the third thing is always write as if you're having a conversation with somebody instead of presenting to them, kind of thing.
Yeah. Don't talk with them. Don't talk at them, right? Or write with them. Don't write at them. Yeah. Very good. Very good. And I think you're right. You're touching along these things. You can't do this alone. Use the sentence structure that is pithy, that is extremely short, but also full of meaning. I think that's a really, really critical thing. And see, this way, SEO and social media, I think, can work together. And these 3 points that you made, I've amplified them in the chat window to everybody. I think it's very important. This way, you can combine your analytics with your writing. You can't work in isolation, and SEO is one way that you can continue that dialogue because it actually helps you focus on the quality of your writing. And this way, you can have some interesting content. And one way to do this is also by the use, folks, of some specific web-specific tricks that are still out there. Vanity URLs, in other words, a URL that is designed to be shaped around a particular product, and you can do that using Google more and more these days. If you focus on the tips that Ross has given you, those 3 tips, you're now creating what's called shareable content. People who, as they get into the dialogue, will see you as a valuable and authoritative resource. And you can reuse content from other people as long as you're not just stealing it, or as long as you're not just parroting it. You need to basically contribute to it originally yourself. And this way you've created fresh content. This last section is talking about getting past the hip factor. You know, Ross, it must be really cool, Stephen, it must be really cool that you can tell people, hey, I do social media, because then suddenly people will think you're hip, right? Not that they already don't, okay, guys, but I think that, you know, how can you give folks some advice about being a good worker in regards to social media rather than just being that cool person who walks through the through the cubicles or what have you, and then people kind of wonder what you do?
Well, you want them to work with the customer. You know, you want them to interact with it. What's going out there needs to be meaningful. It needs to be, you know, to a particular product or service, and it's supposed to provide a service or information. You know, what you ate for breakfast posted on social media doesn't really do anything, and it doesn't make you hip. But providing something that's useful that somebody can apply is meaningful, and they will probably share that content, share that information, link back to you. You know, it helps drive traffic or promotes you. And what you and Ross were just saying just a minute ago about search engine optimization, you know, or for SEO, you know, again, when you've got people that are linking back to specific material, specific content, search engines like that, because it does promote the validity of the content, makes it valuable. And you want to do that same statement with your social media in the workplace. You want to be usable information.
I think so. And I think one of the things that you can do as being a good worker is, as you work with people, include people who may not even know social media, but basically work with them. You can work with them in meetings. You can help justify expenses. You can help justify your position in talking with people and coworkers. For example, there's this. I've noticed that some people, in regards to social media, tend to work with a group of people, a massive group of people for their platforms, but at work they tend to be kind of isolated. I think if you reach out, participate meaningfully in meetings, and include as many people as you can and work with key employees, I think you'll find yourself being perceived as a good worker who brings in something very valuable, as opposed to that cool person, right? How do you guys go about replacing luck, okay, with skill? In other words, we all have seen people get lucky in terms of a viral video, or in terms of a few tweets that really went big. And I think that doing some sort of certainly analysis, we've talked about SEO and quite a few things on this call, but I think if you do competitive analysis of your products and also of people who are talking about similar things, I think if you if you monitor the traffic that's been going on, I think if you do keyword research, these are ways in which you can ensure that you have consistently high hits rather than just relying on luck. What do you guys think?
Well, you know, the concept of relying on luck is kind of like putting miracles into your business plan. You know, it's like the definition of, you know, miracle is something that happens that's amazing, and it doesn't happen very often. You know, it's like basing your revenue projections on the lottery. So I think, again, going back to Sam Clemens, you know, opportunity shows up oftentimes dressed in overalls and ready to work. And so, you know, you can replace luck with skill by analyzing that lucky strike, whatever that thing was, and seeing what were the elements that made that, you know, popular. I love to go out and look at somebody else's great thing that's happened and try to figure out how to make my own great thing from that. learning from the mistakes and from the successes of others, I think, is a key way to be valuable in this space. So that's a great question.
Great point, Ross.
Well, I don't know. I thought I liked the idea of build it and they will come, right? You just throw it out there and people will flock to it. But James, you're right, and Russ, you're right. It's all about doing your homework. What is it that your audience wants, and you can tell that from like you were saying, James, looking at the stats and what works and what doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
I think I just think it's critical because that way you're putting some scaffolding behind the work. I have no doubt that people involved in social media are good, hard workers, a lot of them. It's very important, though, to connect it to meaningful areas of your business, and I think that's important. We got a question. The next slides are just about some resources, folks. See if I can get to them. That I won't go into. Everybody's going to get a copy of this PDF, by the way. But we got a question from someone, I think it was Pat, saying, as a state agency, our audience basically is not allowed, right? Our audience of public educators, it doesn't always have access to social media from their work sites. In other words, they're blocked, right? Do you have any strategies to deal with this obstacle? My answer would be go to an anonymizer site, a proxy site, and and bypass the proxy server. It'll probably get you fired, but you'll certainly be able to get to your social media. Do either of you have any particular suggestions about social media? I think one of them is you can find a lot of sites out there, right, that are acceptable, that aren't blocked. But go ahead, guys.
Well, the one that I always tell people is if you work for a government agency or on a school system or whatever, try to put yourself into the decision thought process that went into making it an outlawed activity, and that is that oftentimes you cannot say, oh, this would be a great thing, and have that be more important than, oh, this could do huge amounts of damage to us. So what I typically do is I tell somebody who wants to be involved in that kind of thing is go out outside of your job and come at it back from another angle. Don't do it as part of your job. Do it as an interested third party in that, go get the domain, greatscienceteacher.com or something like that, and go build something that has value that's outside of it. And also what you can do, and of course I don't want anybody to get into trouble, so if you do this, you're totally on your own. Like James said, proxies and things like that. But you can also go out and do really cool things anonymously that make the people internal to the agency or the organization look at that and go, well, we better get on the stick here. We're getting outraced by the public out there, and we better come up with a strategy for this. That kind of thing. So again, use at your own risk.
and Ross, Ross, you really did hit on a good point, because there are a lot of states and there are a lot of school districts that are starting to implement social media within the classroom with a great deal of success, and those are starting to be publicized more and more. So there are articles out there, and there are sites out there, there are blogs and infographics out there that are supporting the use of social media within the classroom. And of course, you can also, turn to one that is approved by academics, such as Edmodo or EduBlogs, which are platforms that are really geared for social media towards the classroom environment. So those are a couple of strategies that you might take a look at as well.
It's interesting. Our next webinar, folks, in June, is why your IT department doesn't trust you and how to solve the problem. And we're going to be addressing this very issue and talking about how educators can use various technologies to not bypass security rules, for heaven's sake, but can use various alternative technologies to teach important concepts. So we'll be talking about that in June. Now, we're way over time. We're 5 minutes over time, folks. So I'm going to go ahead and bring things to an end. I don't see any other questions that people have asked, but Stephen and Ross, I want to thank you two very, very much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you all for attending. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Take care. Bye-bye.